G'day everyone. I wanted to do a quick follow-up video from my previous revised Z32 possible solutions for the Zodiac Killer and just interrogate some of the options I went through with some more detail to look at perhaps which of these codes and which of these locations is the most viable and most compelling, and the reasons why I think so. So in my previous video, I did highlight estimate 4 radian and 3 inches, which is a solution I've come up with independently to Alex Baber and his investigation team. I do think it's a really good solution. It fits with the cipher consistencies and it's got a fairly compelling location. B, Pacifica or Ingleside PD, the Grinnell-Dreiser solution that takes us to Ingleside PD, but could also be estimated to South San Francisco or elsewhere in San Francisco, is also a really good solution. And obviously there's a lot happening in San Francisco, so let's interrogate that. And then of course there's the Rodeo Hercules one that goes up here, which could, through estimation, go through various tracts of land up to Vallejo. There's not really much happening at Rodeo, and also you'll see here in the actual code there's not as much consistency with the 340 cipher, particularly here with the O and the M that we don't have here. That's not a huge cross against it. However, specifically around Rodeo Hercules, the only thing that really matches is with the bus bomb diagram sections that the Zodiac sent in, with his letters showing an embankment with bombs and a bus going by. So coming back to these large crosshairs and the little less letter, San Francisco Police Department equals 0. If we rotate this to magnetic north, 0 is to be set to magnetic north, and we expand this out close to 3 inches. We do indeed get Mountain View Cemetery. So it's a great solution, and when we look at the expanded 0, which is highlighted for an obvious reason, the inner circle of that does fit precisely over the area of the memorial park. So it's a really good solution in that regard. We have to start discounting some other areas along this line, however. Let's start with this slide looking at 1 and 2. If we go further back towards Mount Diablo, into some of the countryside areas and the hinterland up here, there are some significant locations. However, 1 inch and 2 inch don't fit the cipher code. It needs to be 5 or 3 to get the consistency with the C and the E symbol, the repeating symbol. It also can't really be 4 inches over here, which leaves us with the 5 inch up here, which is actually out into the ocean, but estimated back can just hit this area around the Presidio. So this is the problem with expanding it out literally to San Francisco Police Department equals 0. If we do that, we're hitting 4 inches. It's away from 5 and away from 3, which fit with the cipher. 4 does not fit with the cipher code consistencies. So it's very hard to argue that while he might be taunting the San Francisco Police Department and he's just pointing to that location, which is true, the reality is with his other large crosshair, he was indicating victims, and there's nothing to blow up for San Francisco Police Department here, nor the Chronicle, nor Treasure Island or the bridge. They're all closer to the 4 inches. It needs to be 3 or 5 in my opinion. If we take it out to Stein, that's plausible. It's a victim. However, I question the validity of that, given that he's already marked out Stein here in the bus bomb diagram first letter. And that line, of course, is the same as the little less letter, San Francisco Police Department equals the emboldened 0. So that line is the same. Now, he's marked out other canonical and unknown victims. I don't see why he'd be pointing out for the Z32 Stein. It's possible, but he's already gone through Stein quite a lot in terms of the letters just after he got caught and him gloating about escaping from the police. And again, I don't think it can be 4 closer into the CBD or Treasure Island, and it can't be 2 or 1. Now, the reason why estimate 4 radian and 3 inches is also so good, because of the constraints of the map and the code, and we've been given this estimate, the importance of this little less letter large crosshair becomes apparent. And I've tried to overlay it here over a more modern map. It's hard to get it completely accurate, but it almost doesn't matter, because you can see here clear enough that at close to 3 inches along the 4 radian estimated line, the inner circle, when expanded out to scale, literally covers the exact geographical area or acreage, the actual size of Mountain View Cemetery, that memorial park, which I think is fairly compelling. Now, whether you believe that it's Elizabeth Short and Marvin Margolis, or whether you believe it's someone else, Stephen Hoddle, of course, came up with the idea of Mountain View Cemetery and Elizabeth Short's grave, and a link to Zodiac as well. There are, of course, thousands of bodies buried here. I don't think any of the canonical or associated crimes are buried here, but maybe there's an unknown victim as well. So I can't be 100% on that aspect of it. However, it's a really compelling solution. It's a compelling location. And, it could be true. If it was true, the Z32 is backing that up and creating a link back to the Z13. However, it could be the cemetery, and it could be pointing out another victim. But either way, there's a consistency between all of these letters. There's a consistency in all of Zodiac Killer's communications where he relates back to victims. And I think it's important to note that, and how he's orchestrated these maps together. And I think the Mountain View Cemetery, the way it fits in with this emboldened circle, I think he's put some thought into this, and the way that it precisely fits is compelling and plausible as a solution.